What's up? We about to go to the club. No, but we about to go to the club soon. This is my outfit of the day. Cute little bow bag, wet t-shirt, black shorts, black heels, jewelry. You already know, bust down ring, fish tip on the nose, and necklaces, yeah. And right now we already drunk a little bit. But now we about to leave, honestly, about to go to the club, so yeah. I'm gonna see y'all later.
21-year-old Keon King turned himself in here to police headquarters last night. They say they are still searching for Kada Scott and are still treating this as a missing persons case. Their main goal right now is to find her. But take a look at your screen. This is the vehicle that police are in a desperate search for right now. It's a 1999 Toyota Camry, license plate number MSX0797. It has heavy front end damage. Investigators say it has been in every corner of this city since Scott disappeared on October 4th. They say if you think you saw it, call police, and if you haven't, they want you to be on the lookout for this vehicle. Police tell us King and Scott know each other, but it is unclear for how long they have known each other. They believe they were in contact shortly before she disappeared from her job at a senior living facility in Chestnut Hill 11 days ago. Now, here is another major part of this investigation. Police allege King has a pattern of this type of behavior. The district attorney says he was charged earlier this year with kidnapping another woman, but that case was dismissed in May after the woman did not show up to court. Those charges were refiled today, and now he is facing 2 counts of kidnapping.
Go away, bitch. Don't come over here. Karen, call the cops. Call the... It's all these kids in here. Call the cops, you dumb bitch. He coming around the window. Go that way, Cameron. Yeah, bitch, go away, bye. Go away, bye. Yep, bye. Bye. Keon out here.
On a street not far from the Wissahickon Creek, Kada Scott lived with her mother in a modest row house, its windows framed by curtains that caught the last light of day. At 23, Kada moved through her world with the quiet confidence of someone who had only just begun to map its contours. Her steps light, her laughter easy, her ambitions tucked neatly into the pockets of her daily life. Kada had graduated from Penn State 2 years prior, her degree in communications a testament to a mind that sought connection, that turned words into bridges rather than walls. She spoke of her time there with a fondness that bordered on reverence. The sprawling campus under crisp autumn skies, the late-night study sessions that dissolved into shared dreams, the way the university's bells marked the passage of hours like a gentle metronome. Back in Philadelphia, she had settled into the rhythm of young adulthood, balancing the pull of family with the quiet thrill of independence. Her father, Kevin, lived nearby, their conversations a steady thread woven through the fabric of her weeks. Phone calls about nothing and everything, the kind that accumulate unnoticed until they form the scaffolding of love. She shared a close bond with her mother, Kim, their evenings often spent in companionable silence, perhaps over a cup of tea or the soft hum of a television in the background. Kada's presence filled the house not with clamor, but with a subtle warmth. The clink of keys on the hall table upon her return, the faint rustle of pages as she read before bed, the occasional melody from her phone as she scrolled through messages from friends. Work had become her anchor in those early months after graduation. For about 2 weeks, she had taken position at the Terrace at Chestnut Hill, an assisted living facility perched on a hillside overlooking the neighborhood's verdant expanse. The building, with its clean lines and wide windows, stood as a haven for those whose years had softened their edges, a place where the elderly found echoes of vitality in the care of the young. Kada's role suited her. Overnight shifts from 10 in the evening until 6 in the morning, tending to the quiet needs of residents who stirred in the small hours. She checked vital signs with a gentle touch, adjusted blankets with murmured reassurances, listened to stories that unfolded like forgotten letters from the past. Her co-workers remembered her as diligent, her smile a brief but genuine illumination in the fluorescent-lit corridors. There was no trace of resentment in her voice when she spoke of the hours. If anything, they afforded her a peculiar peace, a way to earn her keep while the city slept. Yet beneath this ordered surface, the faintest ripples disturbed the calm. In the days leading up to that October evening, Kada had confided in her family and friends about intrusions that unsettled her otherwise steady world. Phone calls came at odd intervals, numbers she did not recognize, voices that lingered just long enough to unsettle before trailing off into silence. The messages were persistent, unwelcome, threading a note of unease through her conversations. She dismissed them at first with the resilience of youth, brushing them aside like stray hairs caught in the wind. "It's nothing," she might have said, her tone light but her eyes betraying a flicker of doubt. To her mother, over dinner perhaps, or to Kevin during one of their calls, she mentioned the harassment in passing, the words carrying less weight than the quiet worry they left behind. Friends recalled her laughter cutting through the discomfort, a deliberate deflection, but the calls persisted, anonymous and insistent, like shadows lengthening at the edge of a room. Philadelphia in early October holds a fragile beauty, the kind that teases with warmth before the inevitable turn toward winter. The air on that Saturday evening, the 4th of the month, carried a crisp edge, the sun dipping low behind the hilltops as Kada prepared for her shift. She had spent the afternoon in the easy company of friends, perhaps sharing a meal, plates of simple comforts, laughter rising like steam from mugs of coffee. It was a ritual of sorts, these gatherings, a way to stitch the fragments of a busy week into something whole. By 9:30, she returned home, the streetlights casting long pools of gold on the pavement. Her own car waited in the driveway, but for reasons lost to the haze of routine, she borrowed her mother's instead, a practical choice unremarkable in the moment. Keys in hand, she slipped out the door, the engine humming softly to life as she navigated the familiar route to Chestnut Hill. The Terrace loomed welcomingly as she arrived just before 10, parking in the employee lot under the watchful gaze of overhanging oaks. Their leaves rustled faintly in the breeze, a sound that might have blended with a distant hum of traffic from Germantown Avenue. She clocked in, exchanging brief word with colleagues who noted nothing amiss, her demeanor as composed as ever, her focus on the task ahead. The night unfolded in a predictable cadence, rounds through the halls, the soft beep of monitors, the occasional murmur from a resident stirring in sleep. But something shifted around 10:30. Co-workers later recalled seeing her gather her things, her movements hurried but not frantic, as if an unseen pull had tugged her toward the door. She left early, stepping out into the cool embrace of the night, the parking lot empty save for the scattered silhouettes of vehicles under the dim sodium lamps. No cameras captured the moment. The lot, tucked away from the main entrance, lay beyond the reach of surveillance, its corners pooling in shadow. Kada walked toward her mother's car, the gravel crunching softly underfoot, her black joggers and top blending into the gloom. Perhaps she glanced at her phone, the screen's glow illuminating her face for a fleeting instant, a message, a call, the digital tether that bound her to the world beyond. Evidence would later suggest she was in communication then, with someone whose presence she anticipated, or at least acknowledged. The air hung still, the creak murmuring faintly in the distance as she reached the vehicle. The door opened, closed. The engine did not turn over. And then, as abruptly as a breath held too long, she was gone. The hours that followed slipped into an uncharted quiet. Kada's shift was meant to end at dawn, the sky paling to reveal the first traces of Sunday's light. But 6 o'clock came and went without her return. Her mother, stirring in the empty house, felt the absence like a chill draft through an ill-sealed window. A call to Kevin yielded no answers. Attempts to reach Kada met only the dull tone of voicemail, her phone unresponsive in a way that defied her habits. Concern mounted steadily, a stone-gathering weight in the chest. By evening, with the workplace confirming her early departure the night before, the family turned to the police. The report was filed not as a formality, but as a fracture in the ordinary, a young woman, reliable and rooted, severed from the lives she anchored. In the days that unfurled, the neighborhood seemed to hold its breath. Searches began almost immediately, canines sniffing the air near the terrace, helicopters slicing through the overcast skies, drones humming like insistent bees over the arboretum's expanse. Kevin paced the rooms of his home, his voice steady when he spoke to reporters but laced with the raw edge of a father's fear. "We're working as hard as we can," he said, the words a mantra against the void. Kim's eyes, red-rimmed but resolute, scanned the streets from her front porch, as if willing Kada's figure to materialize from the twilight. Friends gathered in small clusters, their conversations turning from reminiscence to resolve, sharing photographs that captured her essence. Kada at a pageant this past summer, her first venture into that glittering world, her poise a quiet defiance against the ordinary. Kada with a family at a holiday table, her smile wide and unguarded. The investigation deepened. Cell data paused like threads in a fraying tapestry. Interviews with those who knew her yielding portraits of a life unmarred by obvious peril. Yet the harassment lingered in the air, an unanswered question mark curling at the edges of every lead. By midweek, the case shifted hands, not to signal finality, but to harness the expertise of those accustomed to the labyrinthine paths of the lost. Homicide detectives, with their measured tread and unflinching gaze, took the reins, the FBI's shadow falling across the effort like a broadened net cast over troubled waters. Albury Arboretum, 3 miles from the Terrace, became a focal point, its winding paths and hidden groves scoured under gray skies, K-9 units straining at leashes, but yielding nothing but echoes. October pressed on, the leaves turning brittle underfoot, the days shortening as if to mirror the contraction of hope. A GoFundMe emerged, its words a plea wrapped in determination. Funds for rewards, for searches, for any thread that might pull Kada back from the silence. Hashtags proliferated. #help find Kada. #Kada Scott. Digital beacons flickering in the vast night of social media. The family held vigils in their hearts, if not always in public, the weight of uncertainty settling like frost on the windowsills of their resolve. Philadelphia, a city of brotherly love scarred by too many such voids, watched with a collective ache, its pulse quickening at every rumor, every tip whispered into hotlines. And then, on a Wednesday morning heavy with a scent of impending rain, the pivot came, not resolution, but a fracture in the darkness that demanded reckoning. Police gathered under the unrelenting sky, their voices carrying the gravity of partial truths. A name emerged, Keon King, 21, from the southwest fringes of the city. Charged with kidnapping, with recklessly endangering another, his apprehension marked the first firm footprint in the trail of Kada's absence. He was the last, they believed, to hold a line of communication with her that night. The voice, perhaps, on the other end of those final pings, the presence that drew her into the shadowed lot. But questions loomed larger still. The nature of their acquaintance, the depth of any prior entanglement, the why of it all left unspoken, a blank space on the map of motive. The air grew thicker, charged with the hum of unfolding consequence. Tips flooded in, fragments of memory sharpened by the spotlight of scrutiny. A vehicle surfaced in the collective mind, a 1999 gold Toyota Camry, Pennsylvania plates MSX0797, its front end bearing the scars of some unseen collision. Searches intensified, cordons drawn around abandoned spaces where secrets might fester, an old middle school in East Germantown, its windows like empty eyes staring into past. There, amid the debris of forgotten lessons, evidence waited, subtle markers tying Kada to the desolation, a phone case etched with imprint, a card bearing her name, discarded like whispers in the wind. As the sun dipped low on that pivotal day, another discovery. The Camry, unearthed in a condo lot in East Falls, its damaged flank a mute testament to haste or harm. Crime scene teams swarmed, their gloved hands sifting through the ordinary for the revelatory, while the family clung to the fraying edge of possibility. Kevin's voice, when he spoke, carried the timbre of a man who had bartered sleep for vigilance. You never know what little, small, minuscule information may apply to the big picture, the puzzle that might get Kada home. In those words lay the quiet erosion of the everyday, the way a single evening, unremarkable in its inception, could unravel the seams of lives long stitched with care. Kada's absence echoed through the corridors of the Terrace, where colleagues paused in their rounds, the silence of a station a palpable void. Friends scrolled through old messages, their thumbs lingering on unread threads, the blue bubbles frozen in time. The city, with its relentless churn, paused fractionally, the story rippling outward like a stone cast into the Schuylkill. Yet for all the motion, the arrests, the recoveries, the pleas amplified through screens, the core remained elusive. Where Kada had gone in those uncharted minutes after the lot, what shadows had claimed her steps. The investigation pressed forward, a deliberate march through the underbrush of evidence, treating her as alive, as returnable, even as the nights grew longer and the leaves fell like unanswered prayers. In Chestnut Hill, The hilltops stood sentinel, their outlines softening against the bruised sky. The creek murmured on, indifferent to the human fray, while the houses along Rodney Street waited, lights burning late into the small hours. Carter's world, once so vividly peopled, now hung suspended in the amber of what was and what might yet be a quiet haunting, not of spectres, but of the fragile line between presence and its sudden, aching withdrawal. The cordon around the Gypsy Lane condos in East Falls lifted slowly, like a curtain drawn back on an unfinished stage, revealing not answers but the stock machinery of pursuit. By Thursday, the air in Philadelphia carried a new weight. The gold Camry towed away under the watchful eyes of forensics teams, its secret seal behind warrant-sealed doors. Keon King, held on $2.5 million bail, became the fixed point in narrative still spinning toward uncertainty. Arraigned in a courtroom humming with a low murmur of spectators, he stood expressionless, the charges arrayed against him like indictments of a deeper pattern: kidnapping, reckless endangerment, the calculated use of communication facility to orchestrate disappearance. Prosecutors spoke of prior shadows. Another woman, early in the year, allegedly seized from her doorstep, pushed into a vehicle, subjected to violence that left marks both seen and unseen. That case, withdrawn when the victim faltered at the threshold of testimony, now resurfaced, refiled with a grim resolve born of repetition. A mistake. The district attorney's office conceded quietly. Their words a rare admission in the fortress of legal certitude, acknowledging the fragility of justice when fierce silences the wounded. Carter's family absorbed the developments in fragments, each briefing a jagged piece slotting into the mosaic of dread. Kada Scott, his frame leaning now under the strain of sleepless nights, fielded calls from reporters with composure forged in the crucible of waiting. "We're hoping for more information," he told them, his voice a steady baritone masking the tremor beneath. Kim Matthews, her features etched with the quiet ferocity of maternal vigilance, scanned the horizon from their shared home. The borrowed car returned but forever altered, a relic of that vanished evening. Siblings and cousins formed a loose phalanx, their gatherings shifting from hopeful strategy sessions to rituals of endurance, shared meals where conversation skirted the abyss, walks through the arboretum where every rustle evoked phantom footsteps. The GoFundMe swelled, strangers contributing not just funds but fragments of solidarity, messages of prayer, of unwavering belief in return. Vigils sprouted organically, clusters of candles flickering on sidewalks near the terrace, their flames dancing like hesitant stars against the encroaching dark. The community, that nebulous entity often invoked in times of fracture, stirred with a subdued intensity. Chestnut Hill, with its veneer of affluence and order, revealed undercurrents of vulnerability. Resident who locked doors a fraction tighter, parent who lingered longer at drop-offs, the collective breath held against the reminder that safety is no more than a temporary truce with chance. Social media amplified the echo, posts threading through feeds like veins of light in blacklight. Photographs of Kada in her pageant gown, a vision of poised elegance from her inaugural summer foray into Miss USA. Candid shots of her with family, her eyes alight with the uncomplicated joy of belonging. #Find Kada trended locally, a digital chorus urging tips into the hotline, where anonymous voices offered slivers. A sighting at a corner store, a whisper of familiarity with the suspect circle. Philadelphia's broader tapestry, woven from resilience and rupture, absorbed the story without spectacle. Much like the city itself, scarred by too many such silences, yet compelled to press on. Media coverage unfolded with the restraint of a wake, eschewing frenzy for the measured cadence of inquiry. Local outlets traced the timeline with forensic care. The early exit from the terrace, the inert phone pinging no further, the harassment that now cast a retrospective pall. National glimpses appeared, brief segments on evening broadcasts, articles in wire services that framed the case as emblematic of perils lurking in the everyday. Grief permeated these accounts, not as histrionics, but as a slow seep of loss. Interviews with co-workers who recalled Kada's kindness in distributing shifts, friends who mourned the abrupt truncation of her laughter. The district attorney's press conferences, held under drizzling skies, became touchstones, Assistant District Attorney Ashley Toxalowski's measured delivery underscoring the pattern without venturing into conjecture, First Deputy Commissioner John Stanford reiterating the primacy of location over accusation. "The number one priority is locating Ms. Scott," he emphasized, the words a bulwark against despair. even as search teams combed the overgrown lots near the old Ada H. Lewis Middle School, where Carter's phone case and identification card lay discarded, ties to the forsaken. Justice, in its labyrinthine dance, moved with deliberate slowness. King's preliminary hearings loomed on the calendar, entangled with the refiled priors. The January incident, captured in fragments on video, alleged abduction from a home, assault within the confines of a car, released into the night like a discarded secret. Prosecutors, chastened by the oversight, vowed a different course, leveraging 911 logs, witness statements etched in the moment of terror, the physical residue of violence persisting beyond testimony's absence. Experts in domestic violence circles nodded grimly, advocating for protocols that treat such cases as homicides in waiting, victimless in court, perhaps, but resonant with the screams that echo unheard. King's additional entanglements surface in court records: evasions from traffic stops in March, a foot chase through June's heat, unlicensed driving mere days before October's chill. Threads of recklessness, woven into a fabric that now ensnared Carter's fate, prompted questions not of inevitability, but of intervention's fragile hinge. The broader ripples lapped at societal shores, exposing fault lines long camouflaged by civility's veneer. Conversations in community forums turned to the harassment's prelude, those calls, anonymous and insistent, a digital siege that eroded solitude without breach. Advocates for women's safety spoke of the quiet epidemic. The way persistence masquerades as pursuit, the thin boundary between acquaintance and threat. In Philadelphia, where urban density amplifies isolation's paradox, the case underscored the precarity of night shifts, of parking lots unlit by more than happenstance. Pageant organizers, recalling Carter's tentative entry into their world, mourned a competitor whose grace promised more stages, more spotlights unclaimed. Her communications degree, once a gateway to stories untold, now haunted the irony of her own narrative, silenced, fragmented, pieced together by proxies. Grief, that most private tempest, manifested in the family's public poise. Kevin's appeals carried a universality, a father's plea transcending the personal, the minutiae of information as puzzle pieces, the collective gaze as solvent for obscurity. Yet privately, the erosion was profound. The empty chair at dinner, the unanswered echo in hallways once alive with a step. Friends, gathering in East Mount Airy cafes, sifted memories like archaeologists. Carter's affinity for quiet adventures, her recent foray into pageantry as a bid for visibility in a world that often overlooked a brand of understated radiance. The emotional intelligence of those left behind shone through in small acts: care packages for the family, murals of messages on neighborhood walls, a communal insistence on humanity amid the procedural grind. As October waned, the investigation persisted, a symphony of minutiae, cell tower triangulations yielding ghosts of location, witness canvases unearthing tangential sightings, the FBI's Violent Crimes Task Force lending federal sinew to local bone. Searches expanded, drones tracing the arboretum's fringes, divers probing the creek's murky depths, though each yielded only the amplification of absence. The Terrace resumed its rhythms, resident inquiring softly after the young carer who vanished mid-round, their questions a bridge to the world's indifference. Philadelphia's pulse, ever resilient, incorporated the ache, murals in Germantown bearing Carter's likeness, hashtags evolving into calls for systemic mend, better lighting in lots, swift pursuit of harassers, training that equips prosecutors to prosecute beyond presence. In reflection, Carter's case unveils not the lurid mechanics of predation, but the moral fragility that underpins our shared pretense of security. It reveals how the ordinary, a borrowed car, a routine shift, a lingering call, harbors a potential for rupture, how civility frays at the edges when unchecked impulses find purchase in vulnerability. Human nature, that vast and shadowed terrain, harbors both the capacity for quiet devotion and the drift toward dominion, the latter thriving in the silences we permit. Withdrawn charges excused by absence, harassments dismissed as nuisances, patterns overlooked until they etch irreversible scars. Yet amid this, glimmers of fortitude endure, the family's unyielding vigil, the community's murmured solidarity, the investigator's dogged chronicle of clues. What lingers, then, is not the chill of the unknown, but the poignant insistence of presence deferred, a young woman's laughter, poised on the cusp of full expression, suspended in the ether of what might have been. In the hush of Chestnut Hill's evenings, where the leaves now carpet the paths she once walked, one hears a faint imperative to listen closer, to the calls unheeded, the shadows unlit, the lives that, in their quiet unfolding, demand our undivided guardianship. For in honoring Kada's unfinished story, we mend, however imperfectly, the fragile weave of our collective humanity.